we are always in disagreement, pretty
No,
much.
we're not.
No. We are sometimes in agreement, but like just now we're in disagreement again.
I think it's exacerbated by the fact that we're married. So we're always in work and in life. We're both in friction.
Yeah, it's a duel. Yeah. I'm Annie Chu. I'm born and raised in Hong Kong, and my undergrad came from SCI-Arc, and then I went to Columbia.
I'm Rick Gooding. I went to SCI-Arc in early 80s. I'm originally from San Diego. I went to Columbia for the master's program.
And we became also business partners when we started our firm in 1996.
And the rest is Chu+Gooding history.
It all started in New York when we were working with Todd Williams and Billy Chen, and we got to work on quite a few exhibition designs as well as museum spaces. So when we started our office, we got an opportunity to work on, our first show was the Rudolf Schindler retrospective at MoCA. And then since then we've worked on another architecture show for A. Quincy Jones at the Hammer, and we did quite a bit of work for both CAM, California African American Museum, as well as a couple shows at Studio Museum in Harlem, all celebrating the works of great Black artists such as Charles Gaines, Roddy McMillan, and the big Now Dig This show, which is Black artists in Los Angeles from 1960 to 1980.
At the Hammer.
At the Hammer. It was the first time that all that work gets shown in white box, world-class gallery. So I would call that the quietest show ever that we ever made, because we left the white box alone, but all we did was tune the sound environment and haptic environment, because the show needs, the work needs to have that kind of symbolic dignity of being in that white box show. We did a few other shows for MoCA and Hammer, strange subjects like Masters of American Comics, 100 Years of Comic Art. And just recently, we worked on a show about light with artists who worked in light for the Oklahoma Contemporary Art Center, which is a new building that just opened. To me, the house is about the interior and its connection to the landscape. House clients come to us not because like they need a typical house, but because they really want you to solve the problem of, why do I want to live in this spot on this piece of earth? I don't want to be Heideggerian about it, but it is part of that kind of idea about dwelling, and occupying that spot. I think that's an important part of the house. During the pandemic, of course, like the most important part is, what a Swiss Army knife you can create of a house that can transform in all different ways because of all the different situations of lockdown, quarantine. And I think the house became charged with, all the issues about providing workspace, providing all kinds of stuff. Like the program expanded greatly. Working with higher ed education institution, which is, an area that we like to support. Talking about UC Riverside, for example, which is a building 20 years ago that was completed. 25 years ago that was completed, yeah. The challenges of working with institution have to do with your ability to get consensus, because you're working with building committees usually of 30 people, and they all have to agree with your design.
I really enjoyed teaching. I've been teaching at USC fairly regularly the last about 4 or 5 years. I'm usually teaching the comprehensive studios, either in undergrad or grad, and I really enjoy it. We
are actually transitioning our teaching into our team in some way. The teaching continues in the practice, but in the way that we can dictate, without committees. We can do it without committees. What's important in pedagogy is a very long list. And I think that we're engaged right now in some discussions about, and always about, what the profession thinks that architectural education needs to provide, but what are the skills that need to be learned, I think, I'm deeply thinking about that, even though I've retired from teaching. I think there are really a long list of questions about pedagogy, including accessibility, and of course that kind of buzzword of diversity, but how one facilitate the career of women, people of color. That's always a question for me, is what's in the interior canon? And interior canon has always been taking their cues from architecture canon, which is always Eurocentric, and so on and on. We need to kind of revisit our own education.